All right, hello. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to show you an example of how we would use a for loop. Let's say I had this string right here, Whoopi Goldberg, and what I wanted you to do is I wanted you to count the O's. Now you could do it the old-fashioned way and go 1, 2, 3. But let's say I gave you a different string. Our code should work no matter what is in this string. So that is our goal. I'm going to put a little comment here, count the O's. Okay, so first things first, when I'm counting something, I need something that can keep track. I need something so that every time I get an O, it's going to increment. It's going to go up by 1. So I'm going to say int num O's, capital O and a lowercase s, and I'm going to set that equal to 0 because right now we could assume that there's 0 O's. We haven't counted anything yet. So once we've done that, now we have our for loop. So I'm going to say for int j equals 0. J is less than, now there's two ways that we could do this. We could count every single letter in name, including the spaces, but as I told you, we want to make sure that this code covers any string that is within name. So to do that, remember our methods, name.length. This will ensure that we never go out of bounds, and no matter what is in here, we'll be good to go. And then our last thing is j++. So now to enter the arguments of our for loop. So I want to test letter by letter. I want to go one by one, W, H, O, O, etc., etc. And every time I encounter an O, I want to increment that by 1. So I need to do an if statement. I'm going to say if name dot substring. I'm going to use substring, and I'm going to use my counter variable right here because it starts at 0, and because I know all strings indices start at 0, it's a good substitution variable. I'm going to say j, and I am going to use the 2-parameter substring j plus 1. Now if you remember, it is inclusive to exclusive. WH exclusive of H gives me 1 letter at a time. Okay, that spits back a string, which means I could then use my equals ignore case method and test to see if it's an O. So what this now does is if whatever spits back each letter equals ignore case and O. So if it's capital, lowercase, it doesn't matter. If it's an O, then I'm going to go inside my if statement and I'm going to say count plus, or actually not count, sorry, num O's. Plus plus. So technically what happens if we were to go by this very slowly one by one, j is equal to 0. Is 0 less than the length? Yes, it is. I don't know what the length is, but it's very clear 0 is less. We jump into here. If name.substring 0 to 1, which would be just the W, equals ignore case 0. This doesn't. It returns a false. So we skip this. We're at the end of the for loop. Start over. Now j is 1. 1 is less. Okay, this is an H. Does H equal O? No. We skip over. Now it's a 2. It's an O. Does O equal ignore case O? It does. Now it can go into the actual if statement and increment the 0. Now num O's is 1. And it will do this, and again we encounter another O, but it doesn't matter what we do. It's going every time it hits an O, it's going to increment. And what I'm going to do is I want to print it out one time. I only want to print it out one time. So in order to do that, I want to make sure that I'm outside of my for loop. Okay? So if I do this, now I do j, or no, I'm sorry, not j. If I do num O's, and I run this, I get 3 O's. Let's say I do O, capital O. There are now 14 O's. So as you can see, this covers for anything that's in here, okay? So this is just a typical small little sample of how we would use a for loop to cycle through something, okay? This is very common. If you understand how to do this structure, you're going to do very well in this class. Any questions? Leave some comments below.